Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at South Park: The Stick of Truth, the hotly anticipated, I think, RPG based on, of course, the popular long-running TV series from Obsidian Entertainment as well as Ubisoft, published by Ubisoft. Now, I have played roughly 10 hours so far of South Park: The Stick of Truth. That is way more than I typically play for a first impression style video, which is a kind of glowing endorsement in and of itself. I think this is a good RPG. I think it might be a borderline great RPG, and as someone who doesn't really play RPGs very often, this is maybe the most fun that I've had with the genre in, maybe 4 or 5 years. That's not, I didn't play much of Skyrim, I didn't play much of Dragon Age and stuff like that, but coming from my limited RPG experience, I've had a lot of fun with it, and I actually have, I should put this at the start of the video, I finished the main quest. So this is not like your typical 40 to 60 hour RPG. With side quests, this might put you at 12 hours, 13 hours, I don't know. But I was able to finish the game myself in about 9 hours for the main quest, and then I've just kind of been farting around since then. It's available on Steam at 60 bucks, and we're going to play a little bit of it here. This is very early on, only about an hour into the game. And, why don't we just get started here? Now, I should point out, of course, I apologize for having a huge preamble here. South Park is an offensive show. There's content in this game that is going to offend a lot of people. I apologize for that. I don't necessarily endorse it, but, I don't necessarily decry it either. I think this game is, at times, extremely funny. But anyway, to, go hand in hand with a little bit of that racism, we're going to do a side quest here to avoid spoiling much of the main quest. Our quest right now, basically, Mongolians have taken over the City Walk, the Chinese food restaurant. So what we have to do is go to the Tower of Peace right here, which is right next to the restaurant, and then we are going to basically fight our way up this tower, and then at the end we'll get a quest item, and we'll also get a summon that will help us out. So this will do a pretty good job of explaining just what is going on in South Park: The Stick of Truth from a combat standpoint and from an everything else standpoint. But let's start talking about the gameplay. First off, this is a turn-based RPG where you have a party system. You always have yourself, and I've modeled this character. You get a character creation screen at the start. I've modeled this character after myself, and you have the option of choosing from a number of classes. You can be a fighter, you can be a mage, you can be a thief, or you can be a Jew, and I am playing as a fighter. Again, I know that this game is going to court controversy, and it's kind of what it wants to do, I think, to a certain extent. That's what the show does. I'm not getting involved with it. I'm playing as a fighter, so we are a little bit stronger. We have a couple of different things that you should be looking at here. We have HP, which is pretty standard, and we also have PP, and basically, apart from being just a juvenile metric, that is also basically our mana meter. Although we will get a mana meter for magic later. So we're just going to use our scimitar and we're going to attack. It has kind of a battle system similar to something like a Paper Mario or like a Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga or something like that, where what we do is basically there's quick time events, and I don't mean that in the, I know it's a bad word for a lot of people, but there will be like a flash on the screen, and we choose to attack or do a power attack depending on which button we press. So I'm just going to do a regular attack on this Mongolian Torgud right here. You'll see. And, oh! I think I pressed the button at the wrong time, and that didn't do very much good for us at all. Unfortunately, I think this might be a Fraps issue. Just give me a second here. So when Butter holds his hammer over his head, I'll press the button. Oh, actually, it works totally fine. I just press the button late like a ding-dong. Similarly, we can do the same thing when we block. So when a shot comes in, or like an enemy tries to hit us with their sword or something, we can try to block it just by pressing the A button at exactly the right time. And if we do, it usually doesn't reduce the amount of damage to 0, except on some of those shots it did. But it will reduce the damage greatly, and this is how you basically survive overwhelming odds. Let's try some of our abilities. One of my abilities is the Rochambeau here. So basically we do a rock, paper, scissors, and then we kick them in the testicles, and that'll stun them, and it can do a lot of damage as well. So these are all kind of mini games, basically. I hit 2 out of 3 of those, and then we hit the button again, and we do a lot of damage, and the Mongolian Torgud has been killed. Butters also has some really good abilities, like the Hammer of Storms here. This is like a lightning attack. We just gotta hit the A button when the lightning strikes us, and that did a decent amount of damage to both of them, and we'll succeed. You know what this really feels like to me is like a kind of buffed up version of some games that Zeboyd Studios makes. Cthulhu Saves the World, Breath of Death 7. Because when it's not like a Final Fantasy where you have to manage your HP between battles. After you finish a battle, your HP and PP go all the way back up to the top, and you start every battle fresh. And I like that, and it's casual and it's light, and it works really well, and I really like that every single ability kind of has to be learned. You don't just like click on something and then it works. For the Rochambeau, you have to do like a rock, scissors, paper, and the better you do it, the more damage you do, and the more likely the enemy is to be stunned. There's other abilities that kind of function the same way. Like if you're playing as Jimmy, Jimmy is the bard, and he has cerebral palsy or, some kind of handicap like that. So he stutters, and you have to mash the button when he stutters, and then he does better with his song that buffs up his team. Again, I had to stress multiple times that the game is going to be very offensive to some people. And if you're the kind of person that is offended by stuff like that, this is not the game for you. And this might not even be the video for you, because I'm going to try to tiptoe around it as much as I can. But anyway, just before we move on here, the story of the game is basically that it's like a children's, they're playing make-believe in this like fantastical Lord of the Rings style world, where there's this artifact called the Stick of Truth, and the Stick of Truth allows whoever owns it to control the universe. So there's the elves on one side and the humans on the other. And right now, we are playing on the human side, which is ruled by Cardman, and then we get introduced to guys like Cardman and Butters. I'm not sure if we have any. I mean, okay, you can see the other buddies that we can have in our setup here. So right now I only have Butters, but as we go a little bit further, we'll unlock other buddies, and if you're familiar with South Park, you can probably figure out who these guys are, and every single one of them has their own abilities. They're all different in battle. You don't need to worry about leveling them up. They basically level up alongside of you. Now, about half of South Park consists of, you know, the story and the combat and the, well, probably like 80% of the Stick of Truth consists of combat and story, and the art style and humor and sound work, the audio are really, really good and true to the show. I think it's as funny as the show is. I haven't followed it in maybe 3 or 4 years, not since I was in university anyway, so I guess we're approaching like maybe 6 or 7 years. But even if you haven't kept up with the series recently, you'll still be able to get a lot of the humor, and every frame basically is packed full of humor, except for this one, which is mostly just, hey, these guys are from Asia, check it out. But there's a ton of, you know, Easter eggs. Stores play music on the radio that you've heard, you know, like the Lemmy Winks song, or, you know, the Jimmy Buffett's. I don't want to go necessarily into spoilers, but there's a lot of audio cues from the game and a lot of visual jokes and stuff like that. And you'll meet a lot of characters that you will be familiar with from the show as well. So about what I was going to say, though, is about the other 20% of the game is basically like environmental puzzles. So we have a few different ways that we can interact with our environment. We don't have a lot of them right now, this early on in the game, but we can shoot things that are in the environment, and this will sometimes cause like staircases to fall down or paths to open up, as you can see. You know, we want to loot this toolbox here, but we can't actually do it until we actually get a little bit further along. So let's fight these guys. There's no random encounters in the game. Every encounter is an enemy that you can see on the map, which means you can actually avoid encounters, and you can also get the drop on enemies by kind of attacking them before they attack you. That'll initiate the battle with you attacking first, or you can shoot them before the battle, and they'll be stunned when the battle starts. You can also maybe blow them up, and then they'll be dead when the battle starts, and you'll have less enemies to deal with. So this is our ability called Assault and Battery. So this is a timing event. We throw the ball up in the air, try to hit it at exactly the right time, and if we do, then that allows us to stun the enemy and then do a little bit of damage afterwards. Butters also has a ability to heal your teammate. I used Butters the vast majority of the time that I could throughout the game, but you can also have Stan and Kyle and Carmen and Jimmy. Jimmy's really fun to play as well because of his ability to buff his teammates. But for now, we're just gonna play with kind of the default party here, and I'll focus on blocking. I really like the battle system of the game because the fact that, like, blocking actually does make a very big difference in your chance for success. We can also use our ranged attack, by the way, and we'll have a variety of ranged weapons that we will actually get. And depending on how well you do on the timing of your attack, we should actually do our healing touch first here. You can use an item or like a passive ability. It's not really a passive ability, but you can use an item or some abilities prior to your turn and then still have a chance to attack as well, which is pretty important. But yeah, I think it forces you to stay focused in battle, and a lot of the time when I play RPGs, and in particular JRPGs, which this is not really a JRPG, but it's kind of structured like a turn-based JRPG to some extent. We're gonna have Butters use a healing potion on himself. All the potions are like snacks and energy drinks and soda and stuff like that, because this is, you know, not a children's game at all, but it's kind of set in a world where children are the main characters. But yeah, in those kinds of games, I have a tendency to get a little bit bored and just constantly be like mashing the attack button and then healing when necessary, mashing the attack button, healing when necessary. This forces you to stay a little bit more focused. You can also catch the Chin Pokemon here, and it does a sweet little ditty there, as you can see. That's Lambtron. There's 30 of those throughout the game. I did not collect all those. If you want to collect all those, that'll probably take you a little bit more time as well. And you get more abilities. So right now, like, the environmental puzzles that we're doing are really, really easy. We're getting that treasure key, which will allow us to open this treasure box over here. But the puzzles that we're doing are obviously really, really easy. But later, we'll get some extra abilities that will make things a little bit more complicated. In particular, hey, this is South Park. A lot of people are not going to like this, but you get the ability, you get fart magic, basically. Kind of like the Dovahkiin, you know, scream Fuzroda from Skyrim or something like that. You can fart. You can fart to blow open doors. You can fart to light open flames and destroy some enemies or barriers and stuff like that. You can fart to distract enemies. That's a big part of the game. You'll also get some abilities like like you'll get an alien probe. I don't want to spoil too much, but that can allow you to teleport a little bit and solve some puzzles. There's a little bit of puzzling that happens in the game, and it's the weakest element of the game, I think. Every time I found myself stuck, it was almost always just because I didn't notice something in the environment that I could actually, like, interact with in some way. And then when I found it, I was like, oh, that's stupid. And then I just interacted with it and, you know, killed it. The best part of the game is the story, and you know, this really does just feel like a really long episode of South Park. The animation quality is so good. It looks like a South Park episode, like 1-to-1 fidelity, basically. I've been a South Park fan for a long time, even though I've kind of fallen out of favor recently just because I stopped watching the show due to lack of time. But even when I was a kid, I had the you know, South Park and South Park Rally on Nintendo 64, and those games were garbage. This is a true South Park game. This is I didn't play the tower defense game or the weird puzzle platformer that came out on Xbox Live Arcade, but this is the most South Park game, the most genuine experience I think I've ever seen for the series. By far. Now, we also, we have the inventory screen, and I'll talk a little bit about this. The inventory screen, this is not the first game to do this, but the party screen and, you know, experience and abilities and stuff like that takes the form of almost like a social network type thing that we have going on here. So we can see Facebook, and, like, this is our mini feed, and as we go throughout the game, we'll meet more friends, and the friends will post on our feed and kind of give us some flavor text about the game, and you can kind of get a feeling for what's going on. So yes, you know, we made friends with Al Gore. He gives us a side quest where we try to find Man, Bear, Pig, met Officer Bar Brady, etc., etc. But this is our inventory screen. So the inventory screen is like, I should just come out and say that I think Stick of Truth is really, really easy. I only died a couple of times over the entire time that I played the game. There are difficulty settings, but by default, it was super easy. Now, the difficulty of the game is not a major focus of it for sure, but still, it's the kind of thing that is worth noting. You'll probably want to crank up the difficulty if you've ever played an RPG before in your life. As we go through the game, we'll get more items. The items will unfortunately be gated behind levels, basically. So we need to be level 3 in order to use this Mongolian bow, which we would like to because it does a ton more damage than our existing bow, but unfortunately we don't have a choice. But a lot of the weapons, they have different effects. Like, for example, the Mongolian bow, you can shoot it, and you can see it has 10 fire damage, and it also shoots 3 arrows per shot. That's really effective. So it has some passive effects as well, like hits for extra damage and strong against armor. Later on, we'll get something called the Batarang, which is basically like a Batman Batarang. I think it's called the Bat-Datarang, actually, because Bat-Dad's a character in South Park. But anyway, that hits 5 times, and then you can also slot, let's see if I can do this actually right now. I don't have any runes, basically, but they're called weapon strap-ons, but they're basically runes. You can slot gems or runes into your weapons and do elemental damage with them, so you can gross them out, and that causes them to throw up and get more damage, or it can inflict bleed, or it can do lightning or fire damage, etc., etc. So you can really have a different weapon all of the time, and you change them quite quickly. Same with our armor. I'm only level 2, so I can't really replace too much here, but we can also replace, you know, maybe our face, or change things on our face if we want. So we can give ourselves, like, eye black and, you know, a Mongolian beard, and we can pick these things up as we kind of go throughout the game. We can also get chin balls if we wanted to, but I don't necessarily want to, you know, provoke the sensors. Let's move on. Now that we've talked about that, we are about to get to the top here, basically. There are some other things I guess I should talk about. You know, there's the map. Navigation in the game is kind of a pain in the ass. There's fast travel points, but the way that you kind of move throughout the environment is a little bit janky, and I'm not thrilled about it. I mean, you have the whole town. From like a authenticity standpoint, it models South Park very, very well. Like, anything that you could see on the show, you can probably go to in the town. Tom's Rhinoplasty, for example, or, I don't know, the Photo Dojo, the movie theater where, like, the pimply-faced teenager works and yells at you, Tweak Brothers Coffee. You'll go to all these places. It's really like a fan service, basically, wet dream. But actually getting from place to place is really annoying. It almost works like Mario is Missing, where you have to, like, walk up sidewalks sometimes, but you can only cross from, like, this part to this part if you have a sidewalk that you can actually walk on, and even though sometimes there's a road, you won't be able to walk across the road. You've got to make sure there's actually a sidewalk that you can walk on. It's a little bit tedious, and for the first maybe, like, 45 minutes to an hour of the game, I found myself having a very hard time, especially when it's like, hey, go to, like, this person's house, and then you look on your map and you're like, all of these houses look the same. Eventually you figure it out, but there is a learning curve there. Also, we have abilities, and we can level those abilities up when we get when we level up, basically. So, you know, I've got Rochambeau and the Assault and Battery right now, which you've already seen, but we'll get more of these as we get a little bit further. There's not very much character customization for levels and attributes and stuff like that, but you just choose basically what ability you want to make even better. Perks you get with the more friends that you get. So if we get more friends, we can actually get one more perk. Perks are just passive abilities. So we have a couple of more battles that we are going to need to fight here. Oh, they got the jump on me in that fight, like they're the ones who initiated it. I got hurt pretty badly there, and I'm actually burning, which is a nasty status effect that will do damage to me over time. Luckily, Butters blocked all the shots, so I'm going to use a Cure Potion on myself, which will allow me to remove those debuffs. Potions come fast and furious, by the way. That's basically the way that I beat the final boss, was by... none of these guys have armor. Okay. The way that I beat the final boss was just by stacking up on potions, and because you can use one every turn, I would just use one and then attack, and then the boss would attack me and do roughly as much damage as a potion gave me HP back, and I just kind of stayed at an equilibrium point. This is not a game for you if you're the kind of person who is really concerned with having a challenging gameplay experience. This is much more about kind of getting through the battles as a way to see the next, I think I can block this one as well, as a way to see, like, the next absurd thing that happens in the game. And the real strength of the game is the humor, because there is a crazy amount of just insane and ridiculous humor, and it's the kind of thing that if you like South Park, you'll be a fan of, I think. And I am reasonably a fan of South Park, so I was a big fan of it. You know, it's a glowing endorsement just in and of itself that I was willing to play through the 9 or 10 hours necessary in order to get through the main story. When usually for games like this, I do not do that. Usually I just, you know, I play an hour or two and then I do my video and then I never touch it again, unless it's something that really tickles my fancy. And I think this did tickle my fancy. I think it's a good game and I think it's a good RPG, and if you're a fan of South Park, you're gonna like it a lot. Now, we need a dragon's tail in order to complete this puzzle. Again, I can't stress enough that I think the puzzles are kind of the weakest element of what is going on here. Now, let me hope that I remember. Oh, I can see the dragon's tail up there, so this is actually a pretty easy one. So on this one, I mean, they're all pretty easy once you actually know that what you're supposed to do is just scour the screen that you're looking on for the ability to find an object, basically. So let's shoot this, and then shoot this, and there's a little bit of a timer, but we should be able to get through the door nonetheless. And we'll see an example of that, you know, South Park absurdity when we fight our final boss for the Tower of Peace here, which is going to be just a horde of, you know, Mongolian steppe archers, basically. And I think after we level up here, we should actually be able to use that Mongolian bow. So I'm hoping that after this, maybe I'll go talk to City Walk Man, and then we'll maybe see another quest, so you can get a little bit of the feel for, like, the cinematic quality of the game, which is really the strength, but right now I'm just showing off the gameplay. So let's, I don't know, let's try to Rochambeau this Mongolian horde, see if this will work. Sometimes they like to do it with you, and sometimes they don't. That one was pretty well timed. They didn't get stunned, though. They're just going to come back to life. Let's just use our main attack, then. And we'll do it that way. I can't stress enough that even though I like this game, even though I like the game and I like the actual combat and the gameplay of it, that's not the focus. The main focus of the game is very much the humor and cinematic quality, and it does that very well. It really does feel like a South Park movie, basically. We don't have enough PP to do another attack, so why don't we try to do a power attack? So again, I mentioned you can do either a, you know, a regular attack or a power attack. Using a regular attack usually allows you to do more hits, and doing a power attack allows you to do more damage in one shot, but you also break their armor faster. We haven't really seen too much armor over the course of this so far, but enemies later in the game will get some armor. Oh, I managed to block that, and they all threw up because they're grossed out. Basically, that's the poison status effect. It's gross, right? Get used to it, basically. I forgot what I was going to say, but what we can do is do like a 3-hit combo where we start with, you know, 2 regular hits and then do a power attack. But power attacks are mostly used to break armor. Enemies later in the game will get the ability to buff themselves and give themselves armor, even if they don't start with it. Let's see if we can block all these. Oh, that was pretty good. They're going to throw up again, which means they are basically going to be killed. And that will be the end of the Tower of Peace. So that was the first little side quest that I did in the game when I played through it for myself. And all of these fireworks are going to go off now. And what our reward for that side quest is basically that we are going to get a special summon. And, you know, I didn't use summons very often in the game. We may have to attack these guys, unfortunately. I would rather just leave. Okay, we can just run past them. Good. You can do that a lot with battles. You don't have to deal with battles if you don't want to, and you never need to. Like, sincerely, you can just, you know, skip most of the battles, and I was still at a very adequate level, at like level 12 or 13 to be able to beat the game. Did I level up there, by the way? I didn't. I actually don't know how to see how close I am. Oh, I guess I can see on the left side there with like my Facebook profile stuff. Anyway, let's go talk to City Walk Man, and you'll get a feel for a little bit more of the cinematic quality of the game. And here we go.
There you go, kid. All this shitty chicken you can carry. You do good work. I'll help you fuck up Mongolians anytime you want. Not bosses, though. They too tough. You call me with this. I give you 1 per day.
Alright, so we get Mr. Kim as a friend, which will also give us the ability to get a new perk. I'm not too worried about, you know, showing what all the perks do. They're basically passive things. A lot of them are like, have more health, do more damage to enemies that have a certain status effect, have a better, you know, your ranged attacks do more damage. These are all useful, but, you know, they don't make an enormous difference in the whole scheme of things. And I should point out here, again, the game is racist, and that's something that some people aren't going to be okay with. That's all right. And I'm not condoning it by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm also, again, I'm not condemning it either. I'm just saying that it is what it is, and if you're the kind of person that is not okay with that, you're not going to be okay with this game, but you're probably already aware of that because you have been aware and offended by South Park earlier. So what did Mr. Kim give us? Mr. Kim gave us a summon. So if I actually have the ability to get into an attack with somebody, I will do it, or get into a battle with somebody, I will do it. And you can see, you can use summons once per day, and the game takes place over the course of like 3 days, basically. Can I? No, I can't. I don't have fart magic yet. That's a sentence I never thought I would be saying in my entire life. So let's go talk to Cartman, and we should be able to find him because his house has a big sign that says Koopa Keep in front of it. Oh, we do have a battle here. Okay, so a lot of people, again, I'm really dreading the comments on this because I know that some people are not going to enjoy this at all. But anyway, we can use our summon, and the summon will summon Mr. Kim. We get him for one battle per day, and he basically will just... I'm gonna do my wall dance now. He's basically just going to kill them all, or scare them away at least. This is why we can only use it once per day. Right, so they ran away, and we can't use that spell ever again until tomorrow. But that's free experience for us. I only used that summon, seriously, once in the entire game. I used it there, basically, in exactly the same situation, and then never got the spell back from him, because you have to go back to the city walk to get it from him every single time. But those side quests carry rewards like that. So Cartman should be here at his house. Maybe it's a couple more doors down. I think that's Butter's house. This is it, Koopa Keep. And we'll see what my quest log is right now. I'm not going to play too much more, but we'll see. So my objectives: solve Tweak's steamy dilemma and recruit him into Cartman's group. Go to Kenny's house and ask Kenny's mom about the delivery for Tweaker's brew. Wear something to guard yourself from the security guard's pepper spray. Okay, so I'll explain what's happening right now. We have to get the crew together, basically, to fight the elves and get the Stick of Truth back, because they've stolen it from us. And this the people on the elf side, that's Stan and Kyle, and some of the other kids that you're probably familiar with from the show. So we have to complete, basically, a lot of the quests in the game are fetch quests, basically. So we have to complete some fetch quests here. So to get Tweak on our side, what we have to do is actually do his delivery for the coffee place. So basically we have to get the fresh ingredients that the coffee place uses to make their coffee so addictive. And you'll see here...
What? Oh, this isn't for me. This is for the nice people who are renting the guest house out in the back.
Right, the special ingredient is meth, basically. So we go into the garage here, and the garage is full of people who are cooking meth, and we're gonna fight them all and then beat them, and that's probably where we'll end this video.
Yeah, we got...
But you'll see.
Hey, that's not the usual kid that picks up the package, huh? Oh, shit. It's a kid!
Okay, so let's fight these guys. Unfortunately, we didn't level up. If I had the Mongolian bow, I would be able to do a lot more damage here. But unfortunately, I can't really do that. So we'll just focus on doing, like, the Rochambeau attacks, which are really effective. We'll get better abilities later. And not every ability is just, like, a quick-time button press. Some of them actually require you to, like, rotate the analog stick as if you're throwing a discus and stuff like that. So they do all feel differently, and there is a learning curve associated with each one as well. So this should do damage to both of them. That guy, because he got Rochambeau, actually is stunned. And, oh, try not to get curb stomped here. Usually, if you block all the attacks in quick succession, then what that does for you is it means that you can do, like, another attack on the enemy. They'll just, like, turn around and submit to you, basically. So you can do another attack, kind of like a coup de grace or something like that. We just healed Butters up a little bit because he was a little bit sore. And we could... instead of healing him, we could have just given him more PP and then given him a chance to maybe, oh, let's block it. Given him a chance to do his ability again, but I don't think it's necessary. Instead, we'll just kill this lady. And by the way, the reason you want to attack them multiple times there, even though one hit is enough to kill them, is enemies later in the game actually will be able to become resurrected. And I'm deliberately being a little bit vague about what happens later in the game because it's absurd and that's part of the fun. and you'll be able to figure that out for yourself as you go along. I do think that if you like South Park, you'll enjoy the story of the game a lot. So I don't think we necessarily need to show off too much more of the Stick of Truth. Let's just quickly recap. As we solve this puzzle here, let's quickly recap how... Oh, don't do that. Quickly recap how I feel about it, what my main strengths and main weaknesses are. If you like South Park, I think you'll like the game. The major caveat, I think, for a lot of people, even though probably the thing I'm talking about most is that if you're, you know, offended by it, then you're not going to like it. But the actual thing that's going to bother most people, I think, is the actual length of the game. I think that's going to be a real talking point. It's, you know, if you were rushing through the main quest, you could probably do it in 7 to 8 hours. Took me about 9. I got stuck a couple of times. If you look at these puzzles and think that they are puzzles for babies, then you will likely find yourself... did I get the package, by the way? 1 second. Search the meth lab for the package you were sent here to get. Okay. If you look at all these puzzles and you say that these are puzzles for babies, then you are probably going to finish it in roughly 8 hours. That's not going to be okay for some people considering it's a $60 game. For me, I actually liked that a lot. This is fast travel, by the way, so we'll just take ourselves up to Tweak Coffee here. I liked it because I think it moves really quickly, and I really appreciate when games don't overstay their welcome, and there is no filler in this game. You know, I hate to quote Sum 41, but it's all killer, no filler. So everything moves quickly, and everything kind of has a purpose. There's no padded areas, at least it didn't feel that way to me. But for those of you who find it unacceptable that a $60 game would only be like, especially an RPG, would only be this long, that sucks for you, and maybe you're going to want to wait on it. But I do think for everybody else that is at least into South Park, this is the kind of thing you're really going to enjoy playing. You can finish it this week. Next week, a lot of big major games come out. And if you're watching this later, you can pick it up during a sale and have an awesome weekend, you know, kind of experiencing what I think is a genuinely laugh-out-loud hilarious game, and most of the time. I shouldn't be talking over this, so instead I'm actually just going to skip it. But anyway, seriously, you have to take me kind of at my word when I say that it just does a very good job of being authentic to the South Park experience. But anyway, yeah, I think that's basically it. I think it's good. The gameplay is better than adequate, and the cinematic qualities of the game are there. They're really, really good. I beat it myself in a couple of days. I found myself wanting to play it more and more the more I played it, and I think it moves very well. But it is a little bit short for its price point, and I know that does bother some people, even if it doesn't bother me, so I think it warrants mentioning. But overall, I think this is well done. I think it's... could be one of the best games of the year, even though it's dealing with like a high competition march here, if you will. Obviously, the other games coming out this month don't necessarily, you know, bear repeating. You probably already know what they are. We actually did level up, so why don't we level up our Roshan bow, and now we can equip our Mongolian bow as well. But yeah, I think it's good. I'm just rambling at this point. I think if you're a fan of South Park, you won't be disappointed by anything, except maybe its length, but if you're the kind of person who doesn't care about that, then you'll be fine with it. But in any case, there will be a link in the video description below to pick up the game on Steam if you are interested. If you enjoyed the video, it would also be appreciated if you click the like button or subscribe if you want to see more first impressions in the future. Your support really means the world to me. Of course, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you got some useful information, and I will see you next time.